The students for hosting us, and the library for hosting us this evening. We're here tonight ostensibly to debate access to civil marriage. So many of you may be wondering, what is a self-avowed practicing faith leader doing on a panel speaking in favor of same-sex civil marriage? My answer is fourfold. My faith tradition, the United Church of Christ, teaches that every adult has a civil right to marry another adult. As a Christian pastor, I believe that every adult has a basic civil right to marry another adult, and that this right includes the right to discern with one's prospective spouse whether marriage is a mutual calling for the two of them. I'm an ordained pastor in the United Church of Christ. I've been ordained almost 25 years. In my faith tradition, we believe that marriage is both a civil right, R-I-G-H-T, and a religious right, R-I-T-E. In the United Church of Christ, we believe and teach that civil rights are human rights given by God to all people, and that religious rights are ceremonies or practices that faith traditions define and preside over. Because of laws about the separation of church and state, heterosexual couples, and for a brief time in 2008, same-sex couples have had choices about where to get married and who they marry. In California and in the U.S., it is possible for a couple to legally marry in the eyes of the state, as evidenced by a civil marriage license. It's also possible for a couple to be married in the eyes of a faith community by participating in a religious ceremony and signing a religious document. In my church, it's called a marriage certificate. Most faith leaders in our nation willingly function as both agents of the state and their faith tradition, in that we sign typically both civil wedding licenses and religious wedding documents verifying that a couple has exchanged marriage vows with each other and they have observed and been blessed by a faith leader or faith community. As a faith leader, I am keenly aware, as I think everyone in the audience is, that some Christian leaders oppose marriage equality for same-sex couples. And there are other faith traditions where this is the case too. I will confine my comments to my tradition. What may be news to many, though, is that there are a growing number of faith traditions that are publicly expressing support for same-sex marriage rights, R-I-G-H-T-S, and rights, R-I-T-E-S. My own tradition, the United Church of Christ, has a long and strong advocacy history based on our biblically and theologically grounded commitments to social justice. A few recent examples of UCC leadership around sexual and gender inclusion beginning in the late 1960s follow. In 1972, our denomination ordained the first out gay man in a mainline church. In 1985, we established a welcoming church movement called the Open and Affirming Movement. In 2003, we affirmed the participation and ministry of transgender persons in our churches and their civil rights. We support same-gender marriage liturgies in our churches and same-gender marriage equality in civil society, and we made that as a national policy in 2005. Just last week, if you were paying attention to the news, and I bet you were, the U.S. Episcopal Church became the largest American denomination to bless same-gender covenants, and to add language to their rules that forbids barring transgender persons from ordination to ministry based on gender identity. Now, I want to just also say that, as a pastor of a church, we get a lot of credit for being the gay church. I think the last time I checked, we had about 20% of our members were gay. So, I don't know if we deserve that title or not, but that's who we are. We have a lot of families in our church, and that includes families whose parents are lesbian or gay. And I feel as a pastor, it's muy importante to the well-being of our children, that they know that their families are supported by our community. Same-gender marriage offers economic stability and emotional security to the children in our church and in our society. And we at our church believe that it's the qualities of the relationships that determine the faithfulness of the family. Love makes a family. And we also want I'll just add one final point. Some Christian leaders base opposition to marriage equality on Judeo-Christian scriptures as though the Bible were filled with numerous books and chapters that deal unambiguously with same-sex relationships. This is not the case.